Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the conversation. My name is Michael Barnett, your host, and I'm joined today by John Jurkovich. Super excited to have John on the podcast today, where we are going to talk all about loan officers, some of the things that challenges loan officers and gets in the way from their growth, and a lot of the different ways where we can assist loan officers to become better at their daily job and daily routine. John, welcome to the podcast.
Hey, it's great to be here. We did this, you and I don't know, sometime together in the last 10 days. So on my side,
yes.
And so it's good to be over here and sitting down in front of your people. Hopefully I can bring a couple of things. My promise typically when I do something like this is if you're sitting out there listening, saying, should I keep listening or not? Here's my promise to you. My guarantee number one is if you listen for 20 minutes, you're not going to do less business in a year as a result of it. So the guarantee number one is I'm not going to create less business for you. Guarantee number two is probably had you listened to this a year ago and you started applying some of these things, you probably would have done more. So that's my guarantee. Hopefully you can walk away with a couple of things from me that you can put into your business and start hopefully doing more. So that's kind of just my little lead in there. And
All right. Fantastic. Well, John, if you would, as the founder of Fin Toolbox, would you mind just talking a little bit about the toolbox, some of the things that you offer? What
Sure.
are some of the things that you offer to loan officers today?
No, 100%. And in order to do that, I got to back up to move forward and I'll talk really fast. Hopefully your listeners can listen fast, but I've been in this space for about 28 years. I got a 4-digit NMLS, was an executive at what is now Rocket Mortgage for years. So that was kind of where my foundation was. And that was back when this was a little company that, it didn't do a lot. So just a lot of rendition, left there 2011, 2012, went out into the private equity space, bought and sold hundreds of millions of dollars of whole notes, the distressed assets, kind of the tail end of the meltdown, got pulled back into mortgage, have helped a couple of different companies along the way, scale up, multiple different exits in there, different companies. About 2016, I opened with someone else, launched my first brokerage. So my first kind of over into that side, the dark side where nobody wants to go into the brokering world. My whole career, I'd been told how bad it sucked. And I got over there and well, there's a lot of optionality here for those people. Multiple different companies. Last real job, I was a chief revenue officer for a fintech company. That was about 2 years ago, and left there, started doing some consulting, very bullish on the mortgage banker, the broker channel, individuals, with what we're doing today, very into your personal brand, maybe meaning more today than it ever has. 15 years ago, I needed massive tech stacks. It was hard, but now a little guy running a business out of his basement can make $1 million a year. That didn't exist. So leaning into that, I started a company called Be a Broker, where we were a white glove concierge service to help somebody that's sitting at Loan Depot today that wants to open their own shop. We did everything, you name it. Setting up the LLCs, helping them with E&O insurance, making sure that their tech stack worked, that they were sending out all kinds of stuff. And started that company, but quickly there realized, and I'm going on a rant here, but I'll just continue. This will all make sense. Realized shortly into that I was kind of maybe selling out of my wallet, where if I was to go out and open a brokerage, this was all the stuff that I really needed help with. And what I found as I started interacting with more people and launched about 24 brokerages, what I started realizing is they had a lot more problems. It wasn't like anybody with YouTube and just a number of hours can figure out how to set up a CRM or to do all that. Or they actually had problems they had problems converting clients. They had these big key constraints inside of their business that helped them from moving forward. And a lot of times it was sales, it was product knowledge. It was actually just doing a good job of being able to bring in business. And a lot of people underestimated how important the company that they worked for before was inside of that area. So that was Be a Broker, still do it, just in a different capacity today. So if you are trying to launch, I can for sure help you, but it's not my main focus. So I kind of moved more into how do I help the actual individual loan officer out? How do I help that mortgage broker that's maybe stuck in the 1 to 3 closings a month mark? And at the 1 to 3 closing mark, that's you go to bed every night worrying about how you're going to pay your bills and you got to pull your daughter out of ballet and those kind of things. So how do I help that person maybe get to 5 or 6 where they get that breathing room? They know there's enough money to pay the bills. So I kind of started to obsess about those kind of things. And then there's other bankers that are doing 5 or 6 a month that if you could just get them to 10, like it changes their whole world.
Right.
And so I went out and have just been on a quest. How do I help a loan officer where they sit today go ahead and actually put systems in place, things that are scalable, things that have worked for others, tell them what it is, how it'll help them, and then actually help them implement and put it into their business and do that across a whole bunch of different things. I've demoed tons of CRMs, different companies like Loanspark. Why we're talking here today is because if I am that person sitting at 1 to 3 closings a month and I'm reaching out to realtors and they're ghosting me, they'll let me spend money on their Zillow leads, but they don't actually engage with me. Well, then I'm not that engaging. I don't have anything different. And I like to say, and it's a quote that I heard from somebody else, but like to say it all the time, different is better than better. So if you can be different, you're way better than being better. Right. Yet our whole industry, most people that are probably listening, we're always out there trying to incrementally be better. You got millions of people calling on credit triggers. Can I save you $3 a month? It's $3. Don't you care about your family? No, they don't care. Like it doesn't matter. So bring something different to the table. People will listen. And the more people you get listening to you, probably the more deals you do. And so something like Loanspark. So I've got a Fin toolbox. I've got different programs, coaching programs. I've got free stuff. I've got things that'll let you pay me thousands of dollars a month. So I run the whole gamut. And I don't know if it's for you, but it definitely could. So we've got our Fin toolbox. We'll include some links someplace where you can get a hold of me.
We
but
absolutely will.
If nothing else, join our free group, sniff around, check things out. And if something looks good from there, like there is a next step, but everybody on here can afford the free group because it's free.
Awesome. So this is exactly why, John, we have you on the podcast today, because I was truly blown away at your number one, your experience, your background, the toolbox, and what you're bringing to the loan officer community, that I thought it made so much sense for our listeners to hear all about you and what you offer. At the same time, I believe you are uniquely qualified to talk about what we're here to discuss today, which is one, loan officers' fears of embracing new products such as commercial lending. We'll talk a little bit about business purpose loans and how that's kind of over the last several years, it's been growing, but there's still some hesitation from those who are really experienced MLOs or brokers who just haven't really dipped their toes into the water yet. And then lastly, some of the things I'd like to discuss with you is how a loan officer can kind of just make things easier, can kind of simplify their business. So that's what we're here to talk about today. And John, I'm glad that we're in this together today. So let's talk a little bit about commercial lending. Number one, that's what Loanspark does. Loanspark we're an embedded lending provider at our core. However, we have a very large mortgage broker and commercial broker channel where a mortgage broker or a commercial broker can utilize us as the lender of choice to close commercial mortgages or business purpose loans, among other products. One of the things that we have found is the vast majority of mortgage brokers that are using Loanspark, we were the first company, the first lender, the first platform that they have attempted to work with to close a commercial loan. So we are oftentimes there first. And we are very honored and glad and happy to be the first, because we believe we do an amazing job at demystifying the commercial lending process, at coaching our loan officers and mortgage brokers on how to originate and close a commercial mortgage and business purpose loan. But still, nonetheless, when you look at the thousands of mortgage brokers that use us, it's still a very small percentage of the overall industry. And if you ask me, I believe that every mortgage broker should have commercial lending and or business purpose lending in their toolkit. What do you think, John? What have you seen or heard or found?
Well, I think that as people go through, right, we're human beings, we're opposed to change. Typically, the only time change happens in anything we do is the pain of staying the same becomes so great that the perceived pain of the change is less. right? We don't start exercising until after our first heart attack. We don't start doing different things, right? I'm diabetic. It's not until they chop 2 toes off do I decide to like get on the Ozempic.
Okay.
So,
Let's get on the Ozempic before they chop off 2
yeah,
toes.
exactly.
All
But
right.
in the commercial space, what I think it is there's this perceived fear of how difficult it is, or that it's really something that's hard to do. So I think that just the perception there is thing number one that holds maybe people back from doing it. But I also see that as necessity and as the world changed, more people are diving into it because they need to get that, right? Like they're willing to go through that to make a car payment. And then what happens is they have that aha moment where it's like, oh, this isn't nearly as bad as I thought. And DSCR kind of opened that up. There's a lot of lenders now, even, the big box lenders are offering DSCR stuff. Not saying that they're good at it and they have a much smaller box, right? They'll take your DSCR, but it's different than where a lot of your other people would, or maybe, a company like yours will expand the box and do some different things. But that's the thing that I think made people very reluctant to jump in, was the fear of the unknown. And loan officers, we just want to be certain. If I put in A, B, and C, I'll get D, E, and F. And that lack of certainty around that product, it has people just hold back, yet they see it often way before it would ever become a commercial lender. Like most people, when they find out about what's there, they're like, crap, I bet I've let hundreds of thousands of dollars pass me by over the last X number of years by just my ignorance. I just didn't know about it.
Exactly. And that's what I've seen as well. I mean, I will say back when I was a loan officer, right, which was 20 years ago, but I was a loan officer for 10 years. I was an MLO for PHH Mortgage for a while and worked on the various brands at PHH Mortgage, whether it was Caldwell Banker or whether it was Century 21 or whether it was at the time Charles Schwab Bank or USAA. We represented a lot of different brands on the mortgage side, but I was an internal and outside loan officer for that company for a number of years. When I moved to outside as a loan officer, where I was sitting in a real estate office or real estate offices in Westchester, New York, I was approached often with commercial loan opportunities. And I didn't really know, for me, it was as this confusing, scary, this thing that I just wasn't able to do. Because it sounded complicated. It sounded complex. And what I would instead do is I would refer those to a friend of mine who worked at the bank and say, I can't help you, talk to my buddy, Steve, who works at Chase and he'll take care of you. Where lo and behold, I could have been the person to facilitate those transactions, but it was just fear of the unknown and the assumption of complexity, which prevented me from trying to do it, where I could have earned a commission, so to speak, or maybe even earned a referral fee. Right. And like you just mentioned, there are hundreds of thousands of loan officers who have passed up tens of thousands of commissions on opportunities that they could of themselves originated. So
yeah, I like to look at it this way, and I put things back into this context a lot. If you knew, right, I talk about that guarantee. If you knew that over the next 5 years, you'll make $500,000 doing this product, if there was a guarantee, you knew that, how much effort would you put into it today to make $500,000 over the next 5 years? Kids spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to go to a 4-year degree. That doesn't guarantee they make anything. So if you take the time today to learn this, let's say over the next 4 months, and become really good at it, making $500,000 on it over the next 5 years is a very realistic, like you have tons of people right now that use Loanspark that will make significantly more than that over the next 5 years. And the crazy thing is there's loan officers right now that already have the leads coming in, already have the referral partners, are already embedded inside of a community where if they just raise their hand and say, hey, I can do this too, but business is just going to flow to them, yet they're too scared or afraid or whatever it is. Like your bank doesn't care when you deposit your check every month. My bank has never come to me and said, John, did you earn that money doing standard vanilla conventional stuff? Or were you out there in the commercial world? Like it does, your bank doesn't care. So why should we?
How many of these loans were investor loans versus,
right? Like it doesn't matter, but we put, so just think about it, $500,000 over the next 5 years, not acting and doing something with this today. or at least researching how you might be able to, it could be costing you $500,000. It could be $1 million over the next 10 years. By between now and 2035, not understanding this today is costing you $1 million. Would you take action for $1 million? Most people will. I wouldn't, because I'm just so wealthy. That's full of shit too. But that's the reason that you have to go in there. And that's what I try to uniquely position myself to do, is to show you what this is out there, let you know about the riches that are buried inside of these niches, and then actually tell you, here's what you should say to a real estate agent. Here's your script of how you present yourself as not the guy that can pay for leads and buy coffee, but the guy or gal that can come in, and here's exactly what you say to an agent. Here's the way to make it not sound salesy. Here's a way to close an agent to do this business without actually closing them. Right? I'm sure you're all set with your lender and you've already got somebody, but is there anyone in your office maybe that could benefit from a program like this? What's the agent going to say? You didn't just close them. I'm not hard selling you. Well, I actually run into commercial stuff all the time I could use some help with. Yeah, Tim will do it. So there's just different ways that you can sell this, and being able to leverage your niche programs, I think, is one of the most underutilized things as a mortgage banker or broker that we just dropped the ball on. Nobody cares. I agree. Close fast.
I agree.
Closing fast. No one cares.
No, I agree 100%. And you made a good point with the mortgage brokers and mortgage bankers or mortgage loan officers who are focused on the plain vanilla conventional products, right? And those are great products. And the challenge is that everybody offers those products. And you mentioned earlier when we opened the podcast that you want to bring something that's different to the table. You want to bring some uniqueness to the table. So if you're in a market where everyone is selling plain vanilla products, by you as a loan officer offering something that may be unique or different can give you a slight competitive edge. Do you agree with that?
100%. And in today's world, people are moving higher up in the funnel. Like you see what moves that some of the big boys are making, like a Rocket Mortgage buying Redfin and Truebill and some of these things. They've spent like $15 billion over the last 5 years to get to clients higher up in the funnel. And so you as a loan officer have to look at that and say, okay, I can't go out. I don't think I can outspend Rocket. I'm probably not going to have a bigger brand name. Zillow owns search. So what things can I do that are unique when I sit down to talk to somebody about my unique value proposition? What am I bringing? And we use value. I don't even think most people that use the word value is a word, in my opinion, today that is said, yet it no longer really has any meaning. It used to mean something 25 years ago when you added value. Now it's just a catchphrase that it's just something that people say. So again, do you actually add value? What is it that you add? And how do you enhance or augment a real estate agent, your clients, your community, the Chamber of Commerce lady? How do you enhance their lives and make it easier and provide their people with good answers? Well, having this inside of your toolbox is one of those things.
It definitely is one of those things. People want easy. Like we all want easy. If we can get easy, we prefer easy. Most people prefer to not have to think. I'm exposing the truth here. Most people prefer to not have to if they don't have to. And so what I mean by that is when a referral party is providing a referral, if they like, they trust and admire you and respect you already, if you offer the services that they need, they will provide the referral to you, opposed to searching for someone else to provide that referral to. But if that referral party doesn't know that you provide the services, then they won't offer the service. They won't offer the opportunity to you, if that makes sense.
100%. The more value you have, right? You go from chasing to being chased. So I would prefer to be chased.
I agree with you. And I think most would also agree with that point. So I think what this comes down to is how does a loan officer, a mortgage broker get comfortable with some of these products that are outside of their norm? And I'll start with, I think, a part of this. The DSCR product, I believe, it's a gateway product. It's grown over the last 5 years, like as a product that if you haven't heard of, you're living under a rock. And if you haven't touched, I think shame on you if you haven't touched it. But I think it's a gateway product to commercial loans and commercial mortgages. But if you haven't touched a DSCR product, if you haven't explored any type of commercial loan product or program, well, of course, a commercial for Loanspark would be contact us. We would be more than happy to train and educate you on how that works. But we understand that every loan officer may not necessarily come to Loanspark, although we prefer that you did. But there's tons of resources online where you can learn how these products work and how to implement them into your toolkit. And there are plenty of lenders, there's plenty of banks, there's plenty of resources out there that would be more than happy to accept those products from you. And what I would do if I was a loan officer is first, I would find a trusted resource that offers the product that I'd like to provide. And with that resource, then I would study the products, the process flow, the procedures of that resource, of that lender, of that bank, of that mortgage company that offers those products until I get a comfort level with how it works. And then once I get a comfort level with how it works, then I would probably try to originate one of those products while keeping myself involved, as deeply ingrained in the process as possible, in utilizing that lender or that resource and getting assistance to help me along the way to ensure that I am completing the process the right way. That's what I would do as a loan officer or as a mortgage banker. But partnering with Loanspark is a way to make that process just easier, because we're set up for this, where a bank isn't, or a mortgage company typically isn't, that may offer the same type of products that we offer. They're not set up to train, coach, educate, and guide a mortgage broker through the process, more so than a bank or a mortgage company is really there to accept your loan application and then provide you a list of conditions or pricing and a list of conditions that you have to fulfill in order to close a loan. That's not what we do here. We are a completely guided process at Loanspark. So with that all said, what are some of the ways that you think that loan officers should kind of test their way into products like business purpose loans, commercial mortgages, et cetera, where they're maybe a little bit unfamiliar?
Well, I think that, and just to go back to your point there, and I'm a fan of Loanspark for a variety of reasons. A lot of people like to have training wheels before they just go and ride on the bike. And Loanspark, I'm pitching you now, but you guys have two ways to do it, right? You can go through, someone can come in and you can refer it over to them for a smaller commission and sit back on the backside and just watch the game play out and be involved. And you've just referred them a deal. You're still going to make something, but you're not as heavily vested into it. So you can kind of go in the shallow end of the pool and watch them do this and then say like, okay, that didn't suck so bad. Maybe the next one I can do something. So as you run across those deals, and you are today every single day, this is their pocket. They're going to tell you where to go and what links to click on, but they're very good at, you send them over a scenario and they will say, here's about what we can do. Here's what it looks like. You take it back to and you figure it. So that's thing number one. When just the easiest way to do it is, as you have that client, just remember in your head, they say we don't like to think, or you said it, and I agree. Just know that when you run into that next scenario, just have a little spark go off, Loanspark, and then from there, take it to that next level. So that's thing number one. And then thing number two, I believe we're all out there trying to push stuff on social media. We're trying to do different things. And if you can tell stories about people that have run into problems and about a solution you had, nobody wants to hear about your product or your LTV or any of those kind of things. I had a client. They were struggling to do whatever it was. And here's how I was able to help them. And you paint that story. Yeah, I had somebody that was in the cannabis business. We were having problems qualifying them for a loan. I was able to help them get a commercial loan against their cash flows on their business. We ended up doing this, this, and this. Here they are with their home. Stop posting the picture of people holding keys and start telling the story and the journey of how you got them there. Nobody wants to see the final score of the Super Bowl at the day after. They want to know, like, when so-and-so got hit in the head and did he have a concussion? What'd you do to fix it? And the trainer ran out there and there was that fumble. And so people want to know the story. So thing number one, start telling stories about how you help people. And then if you don't want to dive in yourself, refer it over to somebody that's going to teach you along the way. Just sending it off to somebody is great, but you don't learn anything. So learn along the way. And I think that the DSCR program is a great way for a great lead magnet to talk about, hey, did you know that you can purchase a home inside of an LLC? And I don't care how much money you make. We're going to look at the home. And if you've got, 20% down, 25% down, 15% down, if you've got some money down, you can do this. This is an option for you. And if you've got 1,000 people on Facebook, probably some of those 1,000 people have thought about buying an investment property before or doing their own thing. And they just never have because they didn't know how. They thought they needed to make $1 million a year, or be Grant Cardone or something. And you don't. So I think often we're intimidated by the things that we don't know. So let's jump out there, right? You're not going to drown.
Just jump out there and get it done. And you're right. And there's an easy way to test into it. And then I guess there is a less easy way to test into it. I think they're both easy, but you could test into commercial mortgages, business purpose loans, commercial loans by sending referrals to a company like Loanspark, where, like John mentioned, we handle everything. We update you along the way. And then when the loan closes, the individual party that referred you that loan is happy and you're happy, secure to win. But really what we want is we really want to teach a mortgage broker how to broker these products, because that is where the ultimate value is to us as a company, by helping you become, make more money, become wealthier, become more educated in how to make more money, back to money, in this industry. A lot of different ways to make money, a lot of different products to take advantage of to make money. And as John mentioned a moment ago, you're already doing the lead generation. You're embedded in these organizations or in these networks already, where by offering these additional products, it enables you to just make more money. But ultimately, what we want you to do is to learn how to broker these products and not just send referrals out, right? Because when you broker these products, you will ultimately make more money. And the complexity to broker a business purpose loan or a commercial loan, I actually believe in a lot of cases, it's less complex than a vanilla mortgage. I actually think it is. And this is coming from a person that has originated thousands of vanilla mortgages. I actually do believe that commercial loans, many types of commercial loans, are easier to originate, process, and close than a vanilla mortgage. And I'll provide some examples of that in a few minutes.
One thing too that I think as people are out there listening, especially if you're somebody sitting out there and you work at one of these large maybe brokers where you just hang your license, it's a flat fee kind of thing, and they throw this product matrix at you with here's 1,000 different things that you can do, and it's like, well, okay, well, what do I actually do from there? I think that there's often a disconnect between all of the things that you can do and what they even know about. And I just think that we don't do a good job. Like, you can probably rattle off right now, like the top 7 programs that you guys do the most of. And it's probably not, it's not all housing related. There's actual business purpose loans. It's not just buying a 5-unit, with 4 of them rented and the bottom's a hair salon. Like, it's not just that. There's so many other things that are outside, yet we look at it through this really tight lens in the mortgage space that it's got to have a foundation and drywall. But there's a lot of business purpose loans that has nothing to do with drywall or brick and mortar type things. And I think people lose that. They don't think about that. And then these are just great lead magnets too, like things that you can go out and talk about and drive additional conversations because you're talking about something different.
I think we spend a lot of time talking about products, money, which is great. Products and money, they can't really go wrong. But what I do also believe, John, is you have to know your products. If you are ultimately going to be successful or going to move the needle, you have to kind of know what you're doing. You need to know your products. You need to know what it is that you're offering in order for you to be able to tell that story intelligently. And so what do you suggest to a mortgage broker or a mortgage originator who is just, they're trying to kind of go from the 2 to 3 or the 3 to 4, or in your case, the 5 to 6. They've been focusing their energy just on a very narrow window, but they're open to expanding. They're open to learning new things. Like, what are some of the ways that you would suggest they kind of go about expanding their knowledge and really becoming an expert of their product or the products, so to speak?
So there are a ton of different ways to come up with what is your niche or what doing that. I would actually tell you, if I'm going to give you a website right now that's kind of set up as a lead magnet, it's CEO 1440. And inside of there is a little thing that says join my free community. So that it's inside of there. There's also some calculators, just a bunch of stuff on there. The page is not designed to be like a place that you would go for something like this. But if you join my community and send me a message, I have a complete playbook that's all built out from the very beginning. What agents do you talk to all the way through the end of how you leverage niche programs? There's a whole section inside of there of what makes a great niche program. And one of those things is that you can actually articulate it and understand how the program works. Because if it's not a niche to you and you don't understand it, all you do is look like a buffoon when you try and explain it. So that would be the suggestion number one I would have. Go in, download the playbook, completely free, but it takes you every single step along the way, from identifying which agents to reach out to, exactly what to say to them. So that would be thing number one. And thing number two, I don't care what your niche is. If you want to be the USDA niche guy and you're in a rural area and there's a lot of USDA and people don't understand how the program works, then dive in. And again, think about it as that's like a college education. If you become the niche guy and you're in Indiana and wherever, and you're going to do a lot of $100,000 USDA loans across the great state of Indiana. I'm in Michigan, so I can pick on Midwest low loan amounts, but then go out there and do that. But the education, the time that you're putting in today is going to earn you $500,000 potentially over the next 5 years. So treat it as such. Give it the attention that it deserves for the desired outcome that you want. If you're not putting forth the work, you're not going to get the outcome. And then just go out there. YouTube is an immaculate place to learn about things. Go out, see people that are doing that business. There's a ton of stuff out there today where you can go and actually look at production that people have done. And you can see, like with your agent, who are they closing loans with? Like I tell people all the time when I'm coaching them one-on-one, we go through and we look at all the agents that they've done business with. And we go and say, oh, you closed one loan with Sally over the last 3 years. Let's pull up Sally. And we look at Sally. We can see that Sally did 55 buy sides. Okay, so she's got some business. Sally might be somebody I want to look with. And then you go and look at the lenders that Sally did business with, UWM, PennyMac, right? They're all these conventional lenders. I now understand better about Sally. I go poke around, sniff around on her social media, can see what she's doing over there. And I now reach out to Sally and she's, oh, I already have somebody. Of course you do, Sally. You did 55 transactions. I'm not here to take those. What I would like to do though, I see you might be missing this gap. Do you ever run into a client that's thinking about this? If not, no farm. Oh no, I run into clients all the time. Oh, now I'm having a conversation that's not me telling them I close faster, my rates are better, the same crap that everyone else does. And now you've opened that dialogue and I can then take and build off of that. And it's super easy. Like we have so much data at our hands today, but every agent that's out there, if they're not doing these kind of, because they get paid commissions on these too.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So they're missing out. So you're leaving a lot of money on the table. But check out the riches and the niches. It's awesome. I put a lot of time into it. It's been downloaded by hundreds, maybe thousands of people at this point. That is a great place to go. And, you know, you guys have a ton of information. Your website's great. I've become a fan and have referred a lot of commercial deals personally. I don't do loans day in, day out, but these things stumble across my desk all the time. And I'm not afraid to, if somebody sends me over a deal and I'm going to, and it makes me 20 grand to like broker this little like kind of side hustle deal to do a commercial something, like I'm not going to not do the $20,000 thing because it's not that hard to do.
Right.
And you look at some weird stuff and appraisals are expensive. And you don't send out a good faith estimate or they send out a term sheet. So there's some little different things, but it's not for 20 grand, I'll figure out a lot of stuff.
Absolutely. Well, John, this is great. And really, my goal with our session today was to provide some nuggets for loan officers and mortgage brokers to take away and to take one thing away and implement into the business, or, hopefully a light bulb would go off to say, you know what, maybe I should focus on this, or maybe I should research this, or maybe I should discover this, or join the CEO 1440 community and kind of learn what others are doing, right? Download the toolkit to kind of help improve myself, improve my business. So if you could take one thing away from this session, that'll be a huge win for you, and also a win for us, because I would be very happy with that. So, John, this is awesome. I'm glad we were able to make it happen. Thank you very much for joining my podcast today. And I'm looking forward to our podcast hitting the digital airwaves soon.
Yeah, no, we will be out there. And hey, this was great. I appreciate it. And again, anybody that's out there, come check out the stuff that we're doing. We're definitely helping people move forward in their business. And like I said, the CEO 1440 is it's a page that's just out there that does stuff. You can find me all over online. The free group's a great place to start. I wouldn't feel comfortable even trying to sell you anything. Like, of course, you're not ready to buy anything because you just met me. So go in, check out the free stuff. There is a ton of resources out there. And then once you're inside of the group, you can DM. I do one-on-one calls, different stuff. If you want to help uncover maybe what are the key constraints inside of your business, everybody's business has a key constraint. They're almost the same. Right? The key constraints have been the same since I've been in this job, since like Bill Clinton was in office. People still have the same problems. They're just disguised in different things. And if you want to get on a call, sit down, look at your business and see how you can move it forward. But most of us are being hindered by the things we don't know or are afraid to do. And if you can get over your fear and learn a couple new things, like there's no reason that you have to be plugging along doing 1 to 3 closings a month, or worse, 0 to 3.
Yeah. Let's make it easier. Let's make life a little bit easier.
And Loanspark, just a plug. I've looked at lots of commercial programs. Their website's fantastic. Their sign-on process is a little more robust. Not bad. It actually tells you that they're not flying by the seat of their pants. Their portal's actually real. It's not a spreadsheet. Like, it's a real legitimate company on the back end that I don't endorse a lot of things. I'm not paid anything. There's no money that's being made to you to send stuff to Loanspark, but they do a good job. And somebody that's looked at lots of companies across a lot of years at very high levels, C-suites inside of companies, they do a good job, and they're not going to steer you wrong. So that's my recommendation. Check them out.
Thank you, John. I really appreciate it. All right, everybody. Awesome. That's it for today's session, and we will see you next month.